Yep, we're good to go.
Yeah, let's go. All right, Well, first of all, thank you everyone for taking time off your Monday evenings. We know Mondays are usually a bit of a slow start, so I appreciate all of you for taking the time tonight and investing in yourselves. So for those of you who already know me, I'm Alison, and on the other side of the computer is Magnus, and we are the founders of the Women of Color Founders Network. I'll just do a quick introduction about who I am and what I do. So I'm a marketing specialist of 20 plus years. I like to call myself a marketing specialist turned mindset mastery coach because after my neuro-linguistic programming and timeline therapy certification, I've decided to become a coach to primarily work with women of color in business to help them build unshakable mindsets so they can speak up boldly, show up visibly, and create aligned businesses. And then M can do a bit of a quick intro for her about herself.
Hi, everyone. So glad you're here. I'm a brand and marketing strategist working primarily with B2B brands in sporting blind sports within their marketing and their communications. I'm also a personal branding expert, primarily working with women. And my passion for this is because I know as women, we at times shy away from speaking about how brilliant we are and the things that we're doing, just really raised based on the way most of us grew up. So my passion is for us to confidently build our tables and be included on the tables we want to be at. We have to be visible and we have to know how to navigate visibility in a strategic way. So that's mainly my focus when it comes to personal branding.
Cool. So we'd like to begin by first acknowledging the Turrbal and Yagara peoples on the land which we meet today, and also pay our respect to the peoples on the land that you come from to us today, and pay our respects to the elders past and present, and extend the respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be present today. So for those of you who haven't heard of the Women of Color Founders Network, we started primarily as an online storytelling platform that amplified the stories and voices of women of color founders, not just within Australia, but globally as well. And since its inception, the network has actually expanded beyond a storytelling platform, which we're very happy and proud to stand for that, into a transformative space for Black and Brown women who are redefining leadership and business on our terms. We'll work with women of color who have worked hard, have made bold moves, and set their sights on something greater, but know that there's still something more waiting for them. So essentially, we are a network of ambitious, unapologetic women who are committed to building powerful tables that transform communities and industries. So our promise to you tonight is after the masterclass, you will be standing up for yourself so boldly, so confidently, and back into your power and into your light again, and say goodbye to apologizing for who you truly are. Because a lot of us turn up every day, shrinking ourselves and doubting ourselves and apologizing for who we are. So we're going to put a stop to that tonight. And basically help you to regain that confidence that we all innately have, right? We all innately have confidence in ourselves, but somehow along the way, along the journey, we have had experiences or have encounters with people who told us that we're not good enough, we're not worthy. So I want to regain that confidence in who you truly are. And most importantly, to be able to grow with intention, alignment, and more clarity like never before. So before we start, we'd like to actually start our master classes with a bit of a visualization. So we have a minute visualization, but before we start, I would like you to close your eyes because its visualizations are stronger. If you want to turn off your video, that's fine as well while we do this exercise. So close your eyes, relax your shoulders and your body. If you need to do a bit of a wriggle around, do that as well. So now take 3 deep breaths in and out. So breathe in, just really fill your chest and feel your stomach expanding, letting all the air out. And take another deep breath again, in, and then blow out. And one last deep breath in and then out again. And now I would like you to ask yourself, what would it feel like to be fully seen and sought after for who you already are? For being recognized and celebrated for being you and the important and amazing work that you do. I want you to take yourself back to a time when you felt that you were fully in your power, that you were so confident and you were so proud of the work that you are doing, for all the achievements that you've garnered along the way. Now, I would like you to keep that feeling with you as you take another deep inhale and exhale. Let all the air out of your tummy. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Well, thank you. I hope that was nice for everybody to take a bit of a minute for themselves, because we're usually hustling and, jumping from one thing to another, from one place to another during the day. So it's often nice to do a bit of a visualization and ground ourselves and reset before we do the work. So Emma will take us through this section, which is visibility without compromise. So over to you, Em.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks for that exercise. I always appreciate it because every time or everything that we're doing is so rushed all the time, and just taking a minute to pause is so powerful. I appreciate it. Thank you. So within this masterclass, we're not going to teach you how to perform your value. We're going to help you to own it, because we all have aspects of, we all know we all know our value, and we know what we can bring to the table. So we want to help you to own it and to express it in a way that feels like you. So for some people, visibility means being on social media every single day. That would be me. And I know Sarah as well, very active on social media. I know Timmy, I know a few people that are here that are active on social media. And then there are people that prefer the quiet visibility, where the way they communicate, with the way they interact with people one-on-one, with the way that they communicate and interact with people, that's visibility for them, and that's their preference. So whichever style feels naturally to you, that's the best format. I know if I want to know more about what's happening in Jen's life or in Sandra's life, a coffee, a lunch catch up, that's how you get to know people. So think about what's comfortable for you, what works for you, and what naturally feels like you to say visibility. I will not encourage people to be on LinkedIn every single day, because I know that's not a natural setting for some people. So we're showing up as our full selves unapologetically. So visibility is not about being everywhere. It's about being seen for who you truly are in the setting that you're comfortable with. And this is without shrinking, without performance, and without trying to sound like everyone else who's doing the same things you're doing. And as women, we're often told directly or indirectly to turn ourselves down and to polish ourselves or to wait our turn. And this masterclass is where we're breaking that pattern. We recently had a conversation with a few women who are telling us that the reason they don't like posting on social media is because they won't have their makeup in place. And that was interesting, because I know there's a lot to unpack within that statement. So it's about looking at those things. What are the things that are stopping you from showing up in the way you want to show up? So if it's going to an event, do you not go to an event because you feel, oh, you know what, I don't really have anything that I can wear that makes me look good, so I'm not going to go to that event, even though that's your best way of being visible, or not showing up on social media because you don't have your makeup on. So we want to be working on those. So there are 3 common positioning traps that we've seen with most women that stop them from showing up with intention. So the first one is too vague. So trying to appeal to everyone. Your brilliance can get lost in generalism. So if you do everything for everyone, people get confused and they actually don't know how they can work with you or who you work with. They also don't know how to refer you to anyone, how to talk to people about what you do, refer you to the right people, mention your name in rooms full of opportunities. And this usually comes from being told to make your message more universal or less niche. But the beauty in shrinking your market is that you actually become more intentional and you expand the number of people you work with. It's an oxymoron. You shrink your market so that you have more work. It's insane, but it actually works. So clarity is your credibility, and the more specific and grounded your positioning is, the much power it holds. So instead of saying something like, I help people feel better. When you position with clarity and conviction and with intent, you can say something like, and I'll give an example of one of the founders we've interviewed before, which is Mai Inoya. So you can say something like, Mai Inoya makes safe, non-toxic period care for women who want to protect their health, because your well-being should never be a compromise. So if you compare those two statements, one is generic, the other one is very clear. It's got clarity and it's got conviction. And that's a statement that says, I know who I serve. I know why that work is important. And I'm not afraid to be taking up space as I'm doing it. The value you will have is not in pleasing everyone. It's in solving a real problem for the people who need you the most. And that way you get to attract the right opportunities aligned with what you want to be doing. So the next one is being too polished. So at times we can brand ourselves out of our own truth. And this is where, if you've got an accent, you switch, code switching. You hide your culture, try very hard not to have any association with where you are from. You sanitize your story, make it more palatable, all to fit into a vision of professional or a certain standard of etiquette that really wasn't built with with our vibrancy, with our passion, with the intent, the tables we want to be designing and building. That wasn't built with that in mind. So, excuse me. So you can become palatable, but they're not recognizable. So when there's a disconnect between who you say you are online and then people meet with you and have a conversation, that erodes trust. And at this point, we're in an economy that is so poor on trust at the moment. There's research done which said that trust at the moment is at an all-time low. So it's very low. And if we're over polishing, over sanitizing our stories and showing up as we think people want to see, we risk losing that trust factor. And when there's no trust, it's hard for people to refer your work, to refer your project, or to work with you at all. So you end up performing perfection instead of standing in your power and attracting the right people and the right opportunities. So I'd love for you to think about this for a minute. What part of your story are you hiding because you think it's too much, or you think it will not be acceptable, or it will not be accepted? Is it your quirkiness? Is it things that you're passionate about that you'd love to comment on or to talk about? What are the things, what part of your story do you feel you're having to hide because it's either too much or because someone said something to you a few years ago or a few months ago and you've decided, maybe this part of my story is not the best thing to be talking about? Just think about that for a minute. And as you're reflecting on that, I'd love for you to write that question down and reflect on it after the masterclass. Like, really think about what part of your story have you been hiding because you think it's too much, you think it's not acceptable, you think it's inappropriate. That could be the one thing that differentiates you from everyone else who's doing what you're doing. The third one, which is a positioning trap that most of us, including myself, continuously fall into, and that's being too hesitant and waiting to be ready. If we had $10 from everyone who would say, you know what, I'm just waiting to be perfect. I'm waiting for the website to launch. I'm waiting for my content to be perfect. I'm waiting to study a certain subject or a certain course so that I can be more confident and I can put myself out there. That is a positioning trap. Visibility feels risky, so most of us delay. And we tweak the offer, we overthink the post, we wait to launch. And meanwhile, someone with half your brilliance is getting seen, is getting booked, and is getting paid because they are showing up. And I know this trip well because, as I said, I've lived it and I know the story really well. And there's actually something that happened a few years ago, and some people on this call would be familiar with the story. But there was once a man in a meeting who kept questioning my credibility at an organization I was working for. And the final straw was when he said to me, how can someone from Africa know anything about digital marketing? So that, I mean, I'm laughing now. It's really not something to laugh about because that was inappropriate. But when it happened, it really stung. I felt I had the qualifications, I had the experience, I had the expertise, but I then let his voice become louder than mine. And I didn't feel that I was ready to keep talking about all the things and optimizations I was talking that would have saved the organizations hundreds and thousands of dollars. So I started shrinking and I played smaller. I doubt myself during meetings because that was safe. And I wanted to avoid his discomfort because when he was uncomfortable, he made my life very miserable. And it worked. Like, I became invisible and I became a shell of the powerhouse that I knew I was. But here's what I've come to realize through my experience. It's a whole story there. But through that experience, I came to realize that it was never about me. His insecurity had nothing to do with my capability. And the moment I stopped managing his comfort and his discomfort and started reclaiming my visibility in a way that worked for me, my career transformed. And that's when I committed to visibility on my terms. I started speaking up in meetings when I had something to contribute. I started posting more regularly on LinkedIn. I started highlighting my expertise. And within this phase, I thought I needed another course to show that I was really good at what I was doing. And I spent thousands of dollars doing this, learning things that I knew already. But when I stopped doing that and started backing myself, I started getting headhunted, getting promoted, and moving different organizations and building a multi-six-figure business in my first year of operation. And this is what visibility without compromise looks like. It's owning and backing yourself up in the ways that naturally come to you and not shying away because there's someone more qualified who seemingly, I'll say seemingly, because women are usually overqualified for anything they put their hands up. So someone seemingly overqualified, someone who in your past has said something that has caused you to take a back step and doubt the value you bring to the table. There's no shrinking, there's no apologizing, and we're not waiting anymore for permission because the longer we wait, the longer we compromise our wealth building capabilities. You were never meant to shrink to fit into someone else's mold, and your power lies in standing fully in your story. I know this is a lot to take in, but I'd really love for you to reflect on these questions. We'll take 2 minutes to really reflect on this. What are you watering down your message so it sounds safe? Is it in saying things like, oh, what do you think about this? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Or compromising the delivery of your message to make it less controversial? And who are you here to serve? Who are you really here to serve? Who do you want to help? What impact do you want to be making? Who in the community, who in your in your sector do you want to be speaking to? Because when you're deliberate and when you're intentional about who you're talking to, you end up alienating a few people. So it might be, I work with B2B businesses. So what that means is some businesses might think, oh, okay, so she's not really suitable for what I want, and they will not work with me. And that's okay, because that means I'm focusing on the people I know I can efficiently help. And what usually happens when you have this niche, or when you have really narrowed down and are very direct with your wording, you end up attracting a larger pool. It's weird how that works, but you do end up attracting a large pool because you're showing expertise in what you're talking about. So you attract lots of people, but you've got a really defined way of speaking. So think about where are you watering down your message so it sounds safe, and who are you here to serve?
You want me to start the timer for 2 minutes?
Yes, please.
I'll do that. And I forgot to mention as well, you should have a link to the worksheet in the email that you have got earlier on before the masterclass. So if you've got that in front of you, work with the worksheet. Otherwise, yeah, take your time in your own free time, because we know we don't have a lot of time during the masterclass. We would highly encourage you to take the time over the next few days when you have got some quiet time to just go through the questions again in your own time. You've got about 30 seconds.
As we wrap up this reflection, I would encourage you that when you are going through the reflections and the worksheet, do it with grace. So this is not criticizing how we have approached these things before, but it's doing it with grace. It's doing it with an understanding that as we get to know ourselves more, as we get to know ourselves better, we improve the way we show up and we could become more visible. Visibility also means that we're normalizing our presence in places where we might not have been included before. So this is so important in working out and in working through, just to extend grace to yourself and to know that visibility is a matter of, we're building generational wealth as well. So the more visible we are, the more we normalize our presence in the different sectors and the different fields and the different work that we do.
Oh, the minute is up. Awesome. So we're moving on to the visibility flow framework. Like Em mentioned before, most of the women whom we work with and coach, they don't actually have a visibility problem. They are showing up, they are posting, they are showing up at events or whichever channels they feel like they need to be showing up. But the kicker is that they're not getting seen, heard, or even hired or paid the way they should be. And this is where the visibility flow framework comes in. It's all about moving from just being scattered. Sometimes, particularly when we're in business, when we're running our own business, we feel like our to-do list never ends, right? Like we're doing all of the things. We're doing all of the things that we have learned from coaching, from programs, from courses, from listening to others, podcasts, whatever, right? We have got a plethora of informational channels that we can have access to these days. But it gets incredibly frustrating when we're doing all of the things, but nothing is showing up the way we want it to show up. And the visibility flow framework, it's about helping you to move from being scattered and flustered to being very strategic with where you want to show up, how you want to show up, and making all of that effort aligned to who you're here to serve. So visibility isn't about being everywhere and anywhere all at once. I'm really sure we saw that that movie with Michelle Yeoh in a very, very good movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Highly recommend. But it's about really being seen by the right people for the right reasons and in the right spaces. So there are 3 steps to the framework, which I'll walk you through now. And also just a quick reminder that if you have the worksheet in front of you, use the worksheet as your guide as we go through the activities. But there are also some additional questions in there that you can go through in your own time for a deeper reflection as well. So I'll take you through step 1. So step 1, the first and foremost thing that we need to do is to claim and own our story, right? We need to understand what value are we bringing to the people whom we're serving. And that value becomes your key proposition. It becomes your messaging. But before you can position yourself publicly, you have to claim your voice privately. You need to stand firm in your voice. You need to know your identity. You need to know what you're standing for. And what this means is that you're owning the parts of the story that you've minimized, like I mentioned before, where you have shrunk yourself, where you have pretty much deflected from who you are truly. You could be neglecting your lived experience or even your cultural intelligence, your resilience and perspective. Like over time, we've had negative experiences that have watered those elements of us down. So how do we reclaim that? So in the next slide, I would encourage you to work on this reflection exercise. And for me personally, what I like to do is every now and then I like to send a series of questions out to my friends and my peers. Em has helped me with this series of questions before. Is I like to ask them what they think I'm really good at and how they see me working those strengths and characteristics. The reason why I do that exercise amongst my trusted friends and peers every now and then, it's because it helps me to realign and reconnect to my values. Because I think sometimes we shrink ourselves so small that we fail to see what strengths we bring to the table, what value we bring to the table. So if you have a group of trusted friends and peers, feel free to ask them that question as well, because a lot of the times those answers that I got back really made me take a step back and go, wow, like that's me. That's really what I'm capable of. Like those are my strengths. Wow, I forgot about those. So in this following exercise, I would love for you to ask yourself, what do people always thank you for, even when you're not trying to promote anything? So for example, people might be going up to you asking for advice. For me, a lot of the times people know I'm a marketing specialist, so they'll come up and ask me for specific marketing advice. And the other question is, what's part of your story that you've been hiding because it felt too much or not professional enough, in your own interpretation of those words, right? So I'll give you another 2 minutes I'll start the timer and have a think about those questions. It could be from a business perspective, it could be from a corporate career perspective, whatever it is that is happening in your world at the moment, make it contextual to your environment and the professional environment that you're in. Got another 30 seconds. Cool. And that's our 2 minutes up. 2 minutes go quickly when we're having fun. So in step 2, this is where the magic happens, because you can't really be visible if people don't get what you do, right? You know how like people always talk about what's your elevator pitch, right? Like I don't really like that term elevator pitch because I think it's not a fair amount of time to give to someone to tell you exactly what you're doing and what purpose you serve. But the long and short of it, the reason why they call it elevator music, because not elevator music, an elevator pitch is because people are expecting you to be able to succinctly tell them who you are and what you do in the time that it takes from elevator to go from one floor to another. But the main crux of it is that you can't be visible if people don't know what you do. So in step 2, we'll work on how to shape that visibility so that you get really, really clear about what problems you solve, and most importantly, who you're solving them for. So in the next slide, we have another exercise. There are quite a few exercises in these steps because it's really about getting you thinking about, your work. What do you do? What problems are you solving? And who you're solving them from. So you need to be able to clearly articulate the following questions. So who is this for? So for example, I'm a coach. So who am I coaching? Am I a coach for everybody? Or am I a specific coach for a specific niche group of people that I'm looking to serve? And what problem do I solve? So for me as a coach, for example, I am helping women of color in business build an unshakable mindset so they can sell and promote their businesses with confidence and clarity. And why should they trust me? I mean, like if you look in the coaching world, right? There's so many coaches out there. So how do I position myself so that they trusted me? How do I do that? So there's different ways and tactics that I can do that. So for me personally, I share a lot of client success stories on my socials, telling them about why the client came to me in the first place, how we worked through those specific problems, and what the outcome was. What was the transformation? What were the results in the end? And obviously, a lot of these things have to be kept confidential. So I always ask the client, is it okay if I use your name? If not, happy for you to remain anonymous or use an acronym, for example. So a very broad statement, an example is, I'm a coach for all women, right? But if you can be really, really specific, like how I mentioned in my example or in this other example, I help Black and brown women in leadership break through burnout and lead with confidence. That immediately already sets you apart from being a coach, specifically working with just Black and brown women. So Black and brown women who are looking for a coach to help with leadership and burnout will be finding you and knowing that you are the right person to work with. And a good example here on building that trust and credibility is sharing your own experience as well. Sharing that you've lived through their journey, that you get them, you understand them, you're relatable to them. Because in this day and age, like Em mentioned earlier, trust levels are very, very low, right? Because we are so inundated with so many options. There's so many different options, channels, people that we can work with in this day and age. So why should they choose to work specifically with you? What is it about you that makes you the go-to person to solve all of their problems? Why should they go to you instead of someone else? And remember as well to not have imposter syndrome and not to get lost in the comparison game. Because particularly for women, we like to compare ourselves a lot. We like to look at what another woman has achieved or have done in our own industry, and we shrink ourselves because we say, well, I don't have her accreditation or I don't have her experience. She's got 5,000 followers, whereas I have 50, right? Like, I don't know if any of you know the book, but one of my favorite books is The Mole, the Horse, and the Boy. I think it was, I might have marked it up in that order. But one of the best quotes from the donkey to the boy is that, sorry, the mole to the boy is that the boy was asking the mole, what do you think is the biggest waste of time? And then the mole answered, the biggest waste of time is comparing yourself to others. Why? Because we're just wasting time and energy if we are comparing ourselves endlessly with what someone else is doing, with what they are doing versus what I'm not doing. We're never going to be able to focus intentionally on what we're building. And we're just going to be giving up away our power and energy to someone else, whereas we should be channeling that time and energy and focus into building what we are meant to be building and whom we're meant to be serving. So I'll give you maybe another 2 minutes to work through this exercise as well, and have a really deep think about everything that I've shared, and get really, really crystal clear, right? Try and get as punchy as possible. Try and think of what are some words that jump out immediately at you. Try and make it as succinct and as simple as possible, because the whole point of this exercise is making sure that your ideal client on the receiving end gets it the moment they read what you're trying to tell them. So they don't have to read in between the lines and try and make up based on their own experiences and perceptions what you're trying to say. So make it as succinct and simple as possible. Try not to use too many fluffy words as well, because a lot of the times they're using a lot of big words to try and avoid being clear. So we should try and stay away from big fluffy words and try and get really succinct and simple. We've got another 10 seconds or so to go. Awesome. That was the minute past. So once you've answered those questions, work on your visibility action statement in your own time in the worksheet. So there's some prompts there. So what you would fill in is I help a specific audience. So for example, black and white women with a specific challenge so they can the specific transformation. So have a think about who are the people that you're serving? What's the very specific problem that you're trying to serve? So focus on the one main problem so they can have a specific transformation. What are these people looking for when they work with you? What's the specific outcome? What's the solution that they're looking for you to help them with in the problems that they're facing? So this is in your worksheet as well. Once you've done those questions from the slide before, I would encourage you to work out your visibility statement in your own time, because this is important. And I would also highly encourage that once you've got it down, it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember that perfection doesn't exist. So start with the first draft and keep refining it as you go, because as you're refining, you start to find that the words are starting to come in really, really crystal and really, really clear. So once you're happy with that visibility statement, what I would highly encourage for you to do is set it as your desktop wallpaper, or print it out or write it out and stick it in front of you in your study, or at your work desk, wherever your workspace might be, as a constant reminder. So that gives you a prompt whenever you're working on your socials, on your work in your marketing, or even in the way that you show up at networking events, for example. You go in there with this intention already set in your mind. So it's really, really powerful to have this very, very visible in front of you wherever you are working. So in the next slide, we'll go through step 3. So step 3 is where a lot of us go through burnout, because this is where we're trying to be everywhere for everyone and succumbing to fear of missing out, right? Like I mentioned before, you're looking at all the other people in your specific industry doing specific things that are working for them, whereas you're constantly scrambling, trying to get through to the end of your to-do list, but not getting the results you're after. But the main thing to remember is that visibility without alignment is just simply clutter and noise. You could be out there doing all of the things, but if you're not clear on what work you're doing, what specific people you're out there serving, and what outcomes you want for them, it's going to be very hard, regardless of what you're doing, to get the results that you want. So it's not about doing more to try and find the answers, because I think we're very programmed towards hustle culture, where we feel like if we do more, the answers are going to come quicker. If we do more, we're going to get more clarity. But it's actually doing the flip side, because we know that we get anxiety and panic attacks when we see that to-do list getting longer and not getting shorter. It really is about being very clear and intentional. And I know we've all heard this before. It's not about quality and not quantity, but it really holds true in this case. Once you have that clarity about who you're wanting to serve, the work that you're wanting to do, the transformation and results that you want to achieve, then it'll be very, very clear for you to work with the end in mind. What I always say is work with the end in mind. What are you trying to get out of this? What purpose is it going to serve? Whose lives are you trying to impact? And then work backwards from there and align it really, really well with your values and your strengths. And then that will encourage you to show up with so much more clarity. And it also gives you a clear indication on how and where you need to show up. So we've got another reflection exercise here. It's really dig deep and ask yourself, where is your audience already looking for someone like you? So this is more kind of in the market. Put your mind into, if you were your customer, if you were your ideal audience, where would you be already? Would you be at networking events? Would you be at trade conferences? Would you be on Instagram? Would you be on LinkedIn, TikTok? Will you be more on emails? There's a plethora of marketing avenues out there, right? And most importantly as well, ask yourself what platform or space feels natural to me. Like for me, for example, I've always said that social media is a necessary evil. Like we have to show up there because that's how we run businesses and get exposure to our brands these days. But I personally like in-person events. Like I really like going out there, connecting, meeting people, having conversations, and creating connections that way, because that feels very real and authentic to me. I'm by nature very, very curious. So when I meet someone, I put my 100% in them. I want to get to know that person. I want to know everything about them, right? So this is why I thrive in networking events and going out and making people. But it might be very different for you. For you, it might be showing up on more video platforms, for example, Instagram or TikTok, or it might be more long form content platforms like LinkedIn, for example, or writing blogs on your website. So it really depends on what feels natural to you and honing in on that. And then the last thing you want to consider is, how do you want people to feel when they come across your brand? Now, for those of you who don't have businesses, your brand is you. So how do you want people to feel when they have interactions with you, when they're connecting with you, when they're reading your content, or even when they're having an in-person conversation with you? How do you want them to feel? So have a think about that as well. But just really remember that there is really no right or wrong way to approach this. And very important, again, to remember that what might be working for someone else might not necessarily work for you. So don't do the comparison thing. Don't look at what someone else is doing. Just really, really focus on what aligns with you, what sings to your heart, what sings to your soul, and then trust your intuition and go with that. So I'll give you another 2 minutes. I believe this is the last exercise that we'll be doing. So I'll give you 2 minutes as well. But again, just as a reminder as well, no, 2 minutes is very, very short to answer all of these questions. So do what you can now while you're in the workshop, because after this we'll have time for Q&A, so it gives you an opportunity to ask Em and I any questions that you may have. But I really highly encourage you to take time over the next couple of days to go through these questions in your own time, because it's really important to do this work. I would say scrap the to-do list and do these exercises first, because it will give you so much clarity as well when you approach your day, to know how to prioritize and what to do and how to show up in the various ways that you'll be running your businesses, or even in your corporate careers as well. So we've got half a minute left to go. Oh, that's our minute up. And the last slide. So just remember that visibility is not a vanity metric, right? It really is a leadership move, and it's not about chasing attention as well. So, showing up where your presence makes decisions a lot easier as well, not just for your audience, but for yourself, most importantly. So if tonight sparked anything in you, please hold on to that, right? Because, the reason why I run these masterclasses is to support and give you an opportunity to really, do something and invest in yourself and do that deep reflection work. So, so that you don't have to go back to shrinking yourself, being hidden or hesitant. And in our community as well, we love to continue these conversations because, an hour is really not a lot of time for us to do this deep work. So we will support you in every which way we can. In the messy middle, we will want to sharpen your message, amplify your presence with strategy and so on. This is why we built the Women of Color Founders Network, to be a space where your voice is not just only welcome, it is expected. And then most importantly as well, just remember that you don't have to do this alone. So thank you for being with us. Your voice really matters. Your story matters. We do see you. We celebrate each and every one of you, and we can't wait to show up. Cannot wait to see how you show up next. So the next steps on here is an email will be sent to you with a link to the replay, but please check your junk folder so it's not hiding there, because we know that sometimes our emails get hidden there and we don't know where they've gone. We also have a WhatsApp group as well. So if you scan the QR code on the slide, you'll be automatically added to the Masterclass WhatsApp, Facebook group. No, WhatsApp group, so that we can continue these conversations. Em and I would love to hear any further insights, reflections, or breakthroughs, or any questions or feedback that you might have for us. Please feel free to continue those conversations there and connect with one another that way, because we are about community. We are about building this thriving, growing community. So we're here to support one another so that we don't feel that we have to do everything on our own. We have a community who will back us, and will be supporting us all the way. And for those who haven't connected with us on Instagram and LinkedIn, please feel free to do that as well. So I think that wraps up our masterclass. We have got 15 minutes left. So I would love to open up the floor for any questions or any feedback that anyone might have. So feel free to unmute yourself and show your beautiful faces. And yeah, let us know how you went. Are there any specific insights, breakthroughs, questions for us? Now's your time to take the floor. Vivian, please, any questions that you might have?
So I just want to share that it was really impressive to listen the whole masterclass, because I after I moved to Brisbane 2 years ago, I actually found I had been struggle along the way to really about it's actually I really shrinking myself. I couldn't really speak up my voice that on social media, but in the past I was actually very active sharing the voice. And till lately, I think I realized the part that I was trying to be supportive and for everybody, but then I found actually what I enjoy doing is to educate. I like to empower people rather than do everything for everyone, because I found that that's not the long run, and that's not me. And when I was doing everything, actually, it doesn't really people doesn't really appreciate I was doing that. And I found actually I was not really adding the value that I actually can give, and rather I was I was more of that's where I found I really want to be doing more of things that I to do more educate part rather than do more the part that I'm not good at.
No, that's great.
So that's what yeah.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to ask you, what changed? Because you mentioned that you were out there before and showing up for yourself, but then you shrank yourself. So what happened kind of between that?
I think that there was
that is.
Yeah, one of the big change was I didn't actually before moving to Brisbane, I didn't know about what's the job description and what industry. Like in the past, I was following my heart and I was following the people and was working on what I actually really enjoy, the people I want to work with. But when I got here, I suddenly feel, am I good enough? I feel do I need a more degree to prove I am worthy here? Maybe my English is not good enough. Because back in China, I was always working with expat community. And I feel actually my English was really good. like in that kind of community environment. But when I move to a native English environment, I suddenly feel I'm not adequate. And I think that really hold my confidence for a long time. And till I get to learn more and understanding, actually there was so much more I can give. And but before I wasn't confident because I don't know what people need here.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, you know, a lot of us face similar experiences as well, particularly when we're brand new to a country. We start to doubt ourselves because the first thing we hear is you don't have local experience or English is not your first language. However, I would really strongly like to encourage you that, you know, you have to really take yourself back and celebrate your achievements so far. Like experience is always transferable. You know, you've got to look at the wins that you've had, you know, how far of a journey that you've already traveled to get to where you are today. So you need to celebrate all of those milestones, the big and the small along the way. And never doubt yourself just because someone told you you're not good enough. I mean, like, you could ask them, why do you think I'm not good enough, right? We always say, ask questions. Like, don't just take someone's opinions for their opinions. Like, you need to ask them questions as well. Like, if someone says you're not good enough or you're not experienced enough, the first question you ask is, why would you say that? What makes you think that? And a lot of times, based on our experiences, that it's because they feel insecure because they are not even sure what they're looking for in the first place. So they're trying to place their doubt on you when the doubt is actually happening from their own insecurities. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Vivian.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or would like to share? Or Marianne said something. Just open it up to chat. Oh, thanks, Marianne. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time. Hope to catch you soon. Does anyone have any questions or would like to share?
I
have a question. Okay, you go.
I just saw Jane hold the hand.
Jane, sorry, did you have your hand up? Because I might have missed it.
Let Timmy go first.
Okay, Timmy, would you like to go first?
Yes, I'll go first. So for me, I don't think I'm shy to share, but sometimes I have this thought of you're sharing and the things you're sharing, especially on LinkedIn, people you went to school with or people you worked with in your early years back home are doing a lot better than you. Some of them are directors at companies and you're still job hunting yourself. And so sometimes I retract on sharing what I really want to share. So I just need that boost and encouragement to just share and be me and just be authentic while still trying to find my foot here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Emma has something to say.
I do. Don't believe everything you see on social media.
Yes, that's right.
And you know, from a branding perspective, visibility at times means shaping the perception we want people to have. So there's a time that I was extremely visible on social media, and that had been after redundancy at work. And something, I'm not sure how many on this call have gone through that experience, but while you know that redundancy doesn't have anything to do with your expertise or your work or your value, there's still something niggling at the back of your mind that, but why you? There's something that's wrong. There's just something that's always really pulling you back. And so I was being visible, and I was trying to be visible because I was looking for a job as well, and I wanted that visibility and attract the right people. And someone sent, so I think it was about the 4th month, and things were not looking great. Like, I have to be honest, things were not looking great. I was not getting any interviews. I was not getting any jobs. But if you were following my social media activity, you'd have thought, this girl, things are happening. And I was getting a lot of messages from people saying, we love what you're doing. You must be so busy. Someone even says to me, I wish I wish I had your life. I wish I had your life. I wish my life was as perfect as yours. But this had been me in my 4th month without a job, looking for a job, and without making any leeway. And it's only that I then started my business. But for those 4 months, nothing was happening. And yet people externally were saying, wow, your life's going well, all these are happening. But by the time I started my business, by the time I started Vaka, because of all that visibility I'd been building for the 4 months, people were keen to jump in and work with me because they'd seen me. So I would say for you, just know why you're doing what you're doing. Your life does not have to be perfect. And also know that the things you want to talk about, you give permission into what scope of your life do you want to give permission to. So it wasn't in my best interest to tell people everything that was going on. Like, that was not my intention. For some people who want to become career coaches, for example, they would share that story online and say, this is what I then did, this is what I applied, and this is what worked. But for me, that story does not serve my brand and marketing and coaching things that I do. So I don't share that story. So visibility and the things you want to share, tell your story. It will resonate with someone, the people you want to target or the people you want to communicate with. They will align with your story. You will attract those people. And then those other people doing seemingly better, that's okay, like, let them do that, but don't let that then distract or detract from your journey. Keep going. Like, I absolutely love your posts. I love the theme you have on 30 something. I think it's brilliant. Keep doing that. You're making an impact. Some people, one thing to also highlight is if you are active on social media, some people might not interact with your posts at all, but they are seeing it's impacting them. As long as you stick as long as you know why you're doing what you're doing it for yourself and not to go viral.
Yeah, thank you.
Mine was just a comment, and I just wanted to say about the reflection. I find that very useful because, like anything in life, your career, you're growing, you're developing, you're learning new things, you're maybe going into different areas, like Annie, how you'd say you're also going into coaching, something like that. So you get to a level of your career where you decide to take a different avenue. So I find that that constant reflection really helps me to think about what I have to offer, what I can give in that particular area. And of course, it's so important, like you said, you kind of bounce it off close friends and contacts. Or professionals who are in the same field, or who will actually be honest and tell you things that you're good at. But I also like to know what I need to improve, so that I'm able to, develop myself in areas that I'm not that strong. So yeah, I think reflection, I find it such a great way of looking at what your things you can bring to the table.
Great. Thanks for that feedback, Jane. Yeah, it like, we're always so busy. We don't ever take time to sit down and do reflection. So reflection is one of my favorite exercises. It actually gives us time to sit in our own space and really start to think and reflect on, who we are here to do, what impact are we trying to leave on the world. And one question that I like to ask myself that I learned from someone else is, what would the world be missing out on if you don't show up? It's like, because we're all given gifts, right? So what if we're not out there sharing our gifts? What would the world be missing out on? And that gives me like, like the good chills. Because when we ask ourselves that question, we make ourselves really ponder about, well, if I don't do this, what am I holding back from the world, you know? Because we all have gifts and talents that were given from birth, you know? So what are we not doing, or what are we doing if we are not sharing those, right? So it's so important to do that reflection work. And it's always so easy for us to struggle going, oh, we don't have 5 minutes. I don't have 5 minutes. I have places to be, people to see, things to do, right? But even taking 5 minutes out of every single day at the end of the day to reflect is so important. So thanks for sharing that, Jane.
Hello.
Joy.
Thank you
Yes.
for everyone's comments and
Hi,
questions
Joy.
so far. I found it really valuable. I have a question I'd love some advice on. I think one of the questions you prompted was like, what part of your story have you been shrinking or hiding, or like playing small? And I think the thing that I've always been scared of, or what makes me nervous, is I've had a very non-linear career. So I do lots of things and in lots of different places, and love lots of, and you know, my biggest problem is probably that I do too many things. And so one of the challenges or blocks that I have is that step where I need to find who it is that I want to serve. Like, who do I really want to serve? And I get so blocked there because I've worked in different places and have worked in different capacities and have lots of transferable skills. So I'm like, who do I want to, who can I help at any given time? Because it can be different. So, you know, sometimes as a presenter, people have asked me for help because I can present well. So they're like, oh, can you coach me in presenting? And then, you know, I'm also very creative. And so sometimes I help people like really unlock their creativity. And I'm like, how do I find one? Because I agree that when you shrink and try not to, like, sorry, not shrink, but like when you try not to be everything to everyone, you are more successful. But I find myself stuck in trying to really pinpoint who it is that I want to serve.
Yeah, and I hear you. It's a dilemma that I think quite a lot of people face. Because when I first started my coaching business, I'm like, I want to coach women. I was like, oh, women's very broad. So let's like narrow that down a little bit more. And then as I started going out and speaking to people and networking and building the Women of Color Founders Network, I realized that who I really wanted to serve were women of color in business, because I am a woman of color in business. And, you know, I've been in business for a while. I've built a really successful business with my husband, and I have experienced firsthand how challenging it was for women of color to build a business from ground up. I had no entrepreneurial experience prior. So I literally had to learn everything hands-on and being a first-time mom at the same time. So I really had to sit down and think about, okay, women. I knew I wanted to work with women, but what kind of women? Who were they? How do they look like? How do they sound like? What specific problems have they got? And I actually listened to my instinct as well, because like, and Magnus would know this. She was asking me like, oh, what's like, are you coaching women? Like, you sure? Like, you don't want to think about it a bit more? So I went niching down. And then I was like, what really sings to my heart is working with women of color in business like myself, so I can help them, and because I've been through on their journey, I can provide lived expertise and experience and all of that. So I guess maybe the one thing to do is not overthink. Like, what instinctively comes to you? Is it more of the creative side? Is it more of the people who are asking you to help them and coach them to become better presenters? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Which lights you up more than the other? Because a lot of the times we like to overthink things.
Yeah.
But we instinctively already know. But we have to listen to the instinct. Like for me, I was going a bit like that, and a bit of like, oh, but what if I want to work with women who are not in business? I can help them too. But am I going to be diluting myself and my messaging and shrinking myself because I'm kind of in the flux of who to speak to and how to speak to them? Or maybe Em has some ideas as well around that.
Yeah. So Joy, for most women, we are multi-passionate and multi-disciplined because we pick on things really quickly. So we know how to do a lot of things. And we also know how to multitask. Like women are brilliant at that, right? What that tends to do is when we focus on 10 different things, we then don't really hone in as an expert in a particular thing. So my recommendation is you start with one and you experiment, just see what you naturally gravitate towards. So you start with one thing and then you start building the little threads out of that one thing. So for example, I'm a marketer, I'm a marketing strategist. And when I started my business, I wanted to work with everyone because I needed money. I'm like, I need money. I need customers. And if I don't say I do everything, I will lose clients. And I was attracting all sorts of clients. And then I realized in doing that, so that stage was very important because it's experimentation. So in doing that, I realized, oh, there are things I actually don't like doing and that I don't enjoy doing. There are certain businesses I love working with and certain businesses I don't like or I don't enjoy working with. The value that I bring is mostly appreciated and paid for without question by this group of people. So it took me 12 months to really then work out, who do I want to work with? What exactly do I want to be doing? What's profitable for me to be doing? And then looking at what's my passion? I love coaching and training. Is coaching and training going to pay the bills? Realistically, no, but I love doing it. So the marketing arm funds my ability to then do my passion.
Yeah.
So finding ways to do that. Some people then work part-time, so they'll work 3 days a week in the things they love doing that they know they can pay the bills. And then you can work on 2 days on your passion. So just finding ways to balance and feed all the different elements you have in you, and then choosing a few things that you can publicly be talking about, the work that you want to be attracting. I hope that's helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you both.
All right.
But Vivian has one last question and we'll wrap up the evening.
I just want to share that, reaffirm that joy about what I heard from Ali and Matt. This is Vaka is the company name. It's not the name.
Oh, you just have my name, Magnus.
Yeah, I have your LinkedIn, but I just didn't remember the name. So because actually I had a similar problem. So firstly, actually 2 years ago when I first got to Australia, I already have my website, but I didn't publish, I didn't promote. And 2 years later, I'm going to still doing the same thing. So I could do that 2 years ago, but I didn't feel the confidence. Even people come to me, ask me questions, and they want to work with me. I still didn't have the confidence to work with them. But it happens 2 years later, and I'm still doing the same thing. But when I was finally calmed down and I'm going to do, but then I still feel insecure. I want to put more service on because I feel I have so many skills I can serve people. But my partner actually taught me focus on one thing, and it's